Welcome to the Site Visit podcast. Leadership in construction with perspective from the job site. With your hosts, Andrew Hansen, James Faulkner, and Christian Ham.
From the Site Mag studio in Yaletown, Vancouver.
Let's get down to it.
All right, boom. We're back. Tuesday morning, March 30th? Almost April here, guys. We got another Roundtable episode. It's beautiful. It's sunny outside. And we've got Jeff Block from Modulock Fencing joining us. Jeff, how's it going, man?
It's early. You guys got me up early, but I'm doing all right. Tonight's gonna be a great day. I don't feel as resilient as I normally would because taking care of a friend's dog, and I didn't know that these things need to go out at 6 in the morning, 11 at night. It's yeah, doing well. Thanks for having me, guys.
Hey, thanks for rescheduling. I know last time that we had, what happened last time? I can't remember. Something happened.
I blame it on
I don't
John.
know.
All John.
Producer John just boom disappeared there all of a sudden.
Oh, that's right. That brand new iPhone we got him didn't work for some reason. Remember that, John? Oh, is that out loud? That's okay.
Oh man, James, you were saying before we got going recording here, we were talking about stand-up and fantasy football, and then you were reading your Apple News this morning.
That was funny. Yeah, it's hashtag magnetism. It's this article about NASA, and the headline reads, I'm not kidding, this is verbatim, NASA discovers gas emanating from Uranus.
I mean, we could have all guessed that.
I mean, discovers gas emanating from Uranus? I mean, and yeah, I posted this on my friend's channel. I'm like, sure does. Anyway, that's my, that was a very dry joke from NASA. Hopefully dry.
All right. Well, there we go. Kicking us off and lightening the mood, setting the tone. I don't know. I can't think of any puns bad like that.
Lightening the mood. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
James, do you start off with a light joke every podcast? I think that should be a new thing.
Yeah. No, I don't. But yeah, it fell in my lap. You know, what do you want? What do you want in life? You were saying that. Okay, so you're in this fantasy football thing, Jeff, and you're saying that you got this. Anyone who loses has to do one of these number of things that is a punishment. So you said a 1-inch unicorn on your ankle, or
Well, here's the thing: is we've had this fantasy football team now for about 10, 11 years. Same group of guys, and it's getting up there quite a bit. You know, $400 or $500 each. Keeper pool, you weekly winners. And I kind of wanted to spice things up. Me and some of the boys played hockey with them back in the day, back in Mississauga. So we heard about this fantasy league that if you come in last place, you have to get an inch by an inch tattoo. And the guys pick 5 different tattoos, or they'll have to do a 2-minute comedy skit, or they'll have to go streaking at like a baseball game. And they get to choose one of those 5 things. So you know, I'm trying to implement this into our league, but now we've got a couple guys that have 3 children, and you got some of the younger guys from Sault Ste. Marie still, and they're like, yeah, I'm all about it, but my 42-year-old buddy with 3 children does not want to be walking around the hockey rink with an inch by inch unicorn on his ankle, we just kind of try to keep life light, and just kind of keep everything funny.
it is.
No, that's good. No, that's good. And these are your buddies. So tell us a little bit about. You said Sault Ste. Marie. So you're from back east, I take it.
Yeah. Started with Modulock. Well, it was in Toronto. It's kind of I was kind of at a dead stage in my life where I was like, hey, what am I gonna do? I was with the Toronto Argonauts for 4 years, selling tickets, selling packages, selling sponsorships, selling business clubs, memberships. 4 years. New management came in. One of my buddies took me under his wing and said, "Hey, why don't you come start this spray foam company with me?" This was when spray foam
Oh,
just started to get big, the half pound, 2 pound, instead
yep.
of all your bad insulation. So, I wasn't really digging it. So I went on Kijiji one day and I saw this opportunity, and it was like in Manitoba. And my college sweetheart had lived in Manitoba, and we were kind of rekindling after a year of breaking up. And she said, "Hey, why don't you move out here?" And I said, "You know what? Why not just give it a shot?" So I went for this interview. It's a crazy story. I mean, I was living at Bloor and Lansdowne, and if you guys Google Bloor and Lansdowne,
Yeah.
there's a couple really cool spots around Bloor and Lansdowne. I was living with my cousin, my best friend at the time, so it was kind of like early 20s, living downtown. Um, Took this interview. The VP of Sales now, Darren Armstrong, him and I just got along, and he said, "Hey, you want the job?" I followed up, and I said, "Yeah." He goes, "All right, 2 weeks, you're out there." So I did a
Oh,
week
wow.
of training. I did a week of training in Toronto. And then I went to Winnipeg, and I was like, "Okay, what do I do next?" And it's just like, "Hey, figure it out."
What was
So,
the training like? Was it like, okay, so here's this size of panel, here's this size of panel, and they stand up like this. Okay, get out there, kid.
yeah,
Was that what it was like?
essentially 11 years ago, that's basically what it was. Like
Yeah.
there's an evolution to fence, and there is science, and we can get into it after
Yeah,
Yeah.
about all the stuff that we're doing, where fence is not just fence anymore.
yeah.
But yeah, we had a
Mm.
4 foot, a 6 foot, and 8 foot panel. We had a wind brace. Like, hey, go out, knock on all these construction doors, take these people out for lunch, get these events, get out there, build the business, help build the business. I don't know if you guys have spent any time in Manitoba, but Manitoba in the
Yep.
wintertime can get to minus 45.
Yep.
And in the summertime, it's very hot with mosquitoes this size of your head. And I lived in, a hippie area where they didn't want to fog. And when they fog the city of Manitoba, Winnipeg, it kills anything with a central nervous system. So, like all insects. So, people were against that, which I
Mm.
can totally understand. But when you're outside, and you know what, sometimes I indulge in a couple, fresh air tokens every once in a while when you're having a whiskey, step outside and you're in a hoodie, and the only thing you can see is your mouth, like it gets pretty bad.
Yeah. Yeah, no
So
doubt.
then, so then from there, I just wasn't having a good time. Relationship didn't go very well, real quick. Probably you know, the best thing that came out of it was this job. So I went back to the busiest territory in Toronto, worked there for 5 years, helped build the brand there. And then it was like, hey, what's the next steps? Next steps, Vancouver. Get out there. There's a huge market in BC that we're not capitalizing on. Let's
Mm.
go see what we can do there. And I've been here for 5 years now. So that's
Right.
been my journey with Modulock so
So
far.
that's 2016. Then you moved out here,
April 2016. So yeah,
right?
I will have been here for 5 years in
A few days.
3 or 4 days. 3 or 4 days.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah,
Congrats, man.
yeah. It's been a long journey. Moving to different provinces, not knowing one person, and just trying to rebrand yourself in every city.
Yep.
It's tough. It makes me feel uncomfortable, but I love making myself feel uncomfortable, and I love making others feel uncomfortable around me. It
Yeah,
just it brings out the best.
Yeah, we could tell. You know,
I'm
the
feeling it.
yeah, we love this feeling of uncomfortableness. But actually, you seem like a God. You're like a natural on the show. We got to have you back. The when we have when someone goes to a new city and tries to get into a network, you see that a lot. But sometimes the other part is when you're trying to do a business and you do have quite a few connections, especially with guys. Guys are very competitive. You know, sometimes it's almost easier to just have no ties at all, and you got no, you know, like if you went and dropped me in some city, and you said, you know, I have a thing to sell, I would just network, network, network. I wouldn't have any reputation to uphold because I don't have one. And you know that whole personal brand thing, especially as men, you know, you kind of there's you get to start from zero without having the sort of negative brand attributes within your friend circle of being at zero. If that makes any sense. So
It makes a lot of sense. Um, yeah, I mean, you walk into a Christmas luncheon not knowing anybody on your first year, and I had fractured my ribs the night before at Cyprus, thinking I was like some hot shot, hit a rail, and now I'm sitting here and I'm trying to network with all these people that I don't know anybody. So now
mm,
I've got like a stack of drink tickets. I'm just looking at their name, like Brian from Leadcore. I'm like, Brian, what do you do at Leadcore? I start chatting, you know,
Mm.
which got me in the door. You know, the first couple of years we did, I think, 18 to 20 lunch and learns with companies from all over Vancouver, Fraser Valley. You know, we would buy them lunch, get 20 of their PMs in, site coordinators, and just kind of feed them. Say, hey, here's our presentation. This is why you should use us. We're not just fence. Here's the solutions that we've patented. Here are these solutions that the awards that we've won for these solutions that we've patented. So, yeah, I love going into a place, James. I just love going into two 300 to two 300 4,000 people and just working my way around the room, trying to get to know everybody.
so that reception at the VRCA at the waterfront, did you go to that thing every Christmas?
Yeah.
Oh, that thing. I mean, that's got to be your mea culpa. That thing. The when you're that's pretty cool though. When you were able to, you know, if you are just, I mean, fencing seems to be just a means to an end, and that's kind of what it is. But you were able to go in there and say, look, there's some things we've patented. So you're essentially building that brand value proposition there in that market attached to you, and bringing that company west. So what were those innovations that you were able to just say, look, this is not just fencing, guys. Here's your drink tickets, but when you get your rum and coke, come back here because I want to tell you about some specifics here. They're not maybe something you haven't seen. What are those things?
So I'm going to give you the perfect example. We have all these site supers that are on budgets. Hey, if you come into budget, we're going to give you X amount of dollars in bonuses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants to come in under budget.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So when they see the fence, they're like, hey, let's just put the fence up, square circle, square box, square circle. Get out of
Nailed
here.
it.
Never seen one of those before. So they'll come in and they'll be like, okay, just you know what, fence the site. That's it. We don't want anything else. You know, then you've got fence encroaching onto your pedestrian walkway. Pedestrian trips over that base, smashes a Rolex, smashes her face, which has happened numerous times. The lawsuits that we get named into, um, we came up with the safety ramps. Well, the
Mm.
safety ramps actually came from Tony Pascalini, who was an old lead core guy. Tony is now with Etro. So he invented the safety ramp, and we have exclusive distribution rights across Canada for it. We've also come up with a cement block ballast system. 1,100 pounds for every 30 feet. Wind brace gets attached into it. Then you can add screen on, which allows a little bit more wind resistance when you're adding on screening. We invented that one for the Pan Am Games 2015. And then we also have our baby, which is the fence on Jersey barrier. So what we
Mm.
did is we went to every Ministry of Transportation across Canada and we got the specs for their CRBs. And now we have an adjustable saddle patent, lock nut, tighten it up, drill it right into the CRBs, add our fence on with a stability bar, and then the engineers are going to sign off on, 70 to 80 kilometers an hour wind. If you look at some of our engineering specs just on fence alone, if you have a fence that's sitting on Main and Broadway right now, which we do for the Broadway subway project, there's a sidewalk right there.
Mm.
We had 90, 87 km/h winds on Sunday.
Yeah.
That fence is only rated to withstand 43 kilometers of an hour fence. I mean, wind speed.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're talking about there's bus lanes, one of the busiest intersections in Mount Pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
So now I've got to go over there and we've got to take a look at it tomorrow with the site supers and be like, hey, how are we going to do this safely and properly? I mean, if you want to build a building in the middle of Fraser Valley and it's in the middle of a dirt field, I always tell everybody go with the cheapest person. But when you're coming into the urban city and there's nowhere to build but up, we've got the solutions for you.
Wow.
And we continue to innovate. You know, vision and innovation is one of our core values. We've got 7 core values in our company, and we empower our employees to come up with these new products. We patent them. We give them awards. We have award ceremonies every year. So yeah, we're continuously the hamster's running all the time. Like, hey, how can we do this? We're launching a new security nut, um, so that you can't just take it off with a wrench. You need a special socket. So there's some big things coming with Modulock in the next couple of years.
Really, really quick, Jeff, just for our audience and those listening. Quick background on Modulock. Just the Cole's notes, when it started, where it operates, and the stuff that it does, just to provide some context. We
Yeah,
jumped into a lot of like technical stuff pretty quick, and
yeah.
it's good.
I know once I get going, these guys got to just stop me.
No,
I'm,
it's no,
I'm
it's
just keep
totally
going.
fine.
So
But it's good.
Modulock, 25 years this year.
Nice.
We started in Kelowna. Two brothers, Don and Darren Rintoul.
Hmm.
So technically, our head office is in Kelowna, but our corporate is now in Toronto. Don and Darren Rintoul have now exited the company. We have majority share owner Mike Lazaridis, inventor of BlackBerry. So he owns 50% of our company. And then there are
Hmm.
3 other gentlemen, Chris Mooks, Jim Matracos, and Clint Sharples, that own the other 50% for Canada. And then we have now expanded into the States, where Modulock Canada owns 50% of Modulock States. And we are in three cities in Dallas, Texas right now, which made sense because the population of Dallas is the population of Canada. So why not start there? So we will be expanding into the States, taking a little bit more time. Brief Cole's notes right there. So we do have a billionaire backing behind us. So if we want to go out and acquire other companies that are going to, play into our bins or our toilets and try to compete with our competitors, yeah, we're not afraid to do that.
How many? What's the total employee count throughout Canada and the U.S.?
U.S. is tough to judge. I don't really get too much information from the U.S., but total employee count during COVID without any events, I'm going to say we're probably our national meetings. We had 160 to 165 employee surveys gone out, but on the
Hmm.
summertime with all of the events, we would be well over 200, 250 with all the
Right.
summer students. But,
So
you know,
what percentage of the business is construction? Obviously, during COVID, it's a lot, but generally,
yeah. Um, I'm gonna say probably about 70% construction, 10%, 10% sales, 10% safety, and then 10% events now because they're just
Mm.
small events, little Christmas ones. Are we considering bar patios events? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know where all the numbers go. That's why we have the finance guys.
right? Well, based on
Totally.
the fact you can only eat on patios for the next few weeks, you're going to need some security fencing around those patios.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. You know what they lock the indoors down, but then they're just going to extend the patios. So guaranteed Yaletown, you're not going to be able to drive a car down there now. They're just going to extend the patios all along the outside, especially with the summer coming, right?
Yeah, the
Right.
whole street. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we've got the entire city of Kelowna blocked off. We did last year as well with all of our fence, and they just patio after patio after patio. You couldn't even drive down there.
Whoa, crazy.
Oh, that's wild. Didn't know that. So Jeff, okay, coming back, you said you had a little bit of background in sports, which is pretty interesting. I mean, I guess that can speak to a lot of the way that you know can be pretty like you know be outgoing and get right into there and get all competitive and everything. The sporting world will do that to you. Did you have any construction background before that, or is this kind of like like you did mention a bit of a reinventing of yourself and jumping straight into this? But was there anything prior to that? Were you ever on job sites? Were you ever doing any construction or anything like that? Or is it just totally new to you?
Well, my dad owned a Service Master Restoration company
Oh,
back in Brampton, Ontario. So, I grew up with the disaster restoration side. Being kind of a laborer, kind of seeing what my dad was doing a little bit, quoting on some jobs. It didn't really interest me at the time because what, you're young, you're 16. What do you want to do when you're 16? You want to go to Jimmy's Friday night party, Bender Bash after the football game, and hang out with your friends. So
yep.
I went from there right into the Toronto Argonauts, and then from the Toronto Argonauts, I dabbled a little bit in online advertising, search engine websites. A company called Zip Local. I don't even know if they're around
I remember
anymore.
that.
Yeah, so did that for a little bit, and then went over to Brothers Armstrong, spray foam insulation. Became the sales manager there, and just tried to help them build their business. And then I just jumped right into Modulok 11 years ago.
Right.
11 years ago, I think this week.
That's crazy. No, that's cool. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, coming from getting spray foam, uh, that's a trade that'll get you out into the field and get you seeing kind of the ins and outs of what the goods and the bads of what construction can look like.
Yeah.
For sure. But you've jumped in and fully embraced construction. So you're really involved in VRCA, which I want to talk about, like the U40 committee,
Yep.
and you've embraced things quite quite well coming into Vancouver and the industry and the networking and all that sort of thing. But yeah, maybe share a little bit about the drive to network and to connect and to build that base within something like the VRCA and just the local Vancouver Construction Association.
Yeah. So it was 2017. I'll still remember this. 2017 at the CLF, and I was outside getting some fresh air, and a gentleman by the name of Mike Mariel from Etro
Mm,
came up beside me, and it was just him and I. You get some one-on-one time with a guy that's just starting out. He's got all the time in the world. Fantastic guy. And I said, hey, he did a really good job. He was the guest speaker, the keynote speaker, or the MC that year.
hmm
And he was, we were just shooting the shit, talking about life, his kids, his wife, like my path. I was only here for just over a year now. And he's like, you should get into this U40. And I was like, okay, it seems kind of cool. Is my passion going to be like the whole politics side when it sits on the board? That's not me. I'm not a politics guy, and I'm all about the let's have fun. Let's get as many people together to network as possible because, down the road, you got 505 Junk or, Got Bins Group sending me over quotes being like, hey, Jeff, can you go help these guys out? Even Christian, if you heard of somebody that needed fence, you'd be like, hey, call Jeff.
Yep.
So I got involved with the U40. I started in, I think, 2018 with just the boat cruise, or 2017. It was one of the two. We just kind of co-hosted the boat cruise, and I was like, yeah, this is kind of cool. This is kind of cool. Co-hosted it, donated some prizes, and then I was debating on running. I was like, okay, well, I see who I'm going up against. I'm going up against a CPA. Never seen her at one of the events before. Um, I said, let's just do it. Let's just try it. Let's get our feet wet. So yeah, I got elected as the treasurer, and then COVID hit. So perfect. I'm not the biggest finance guy, so it's like we made no money. I can tell you
Yeah.
that right now. So it's like cha-ching.
Easy
So then,
gig.
yeah, then I went for the vice chair. Then we encouraged you and Mackenzie Kotak to get in as
Yep.
well. Yeah, it's just I've got a passion of bringing like the younger generation together and just
Hmm.
networking. Use our networks to just become better people, to do better business. Just because I'm not going to do business with you, Christian, doesn't mean that I can't learn a lot of things from you
Hmm.
or James or Ryan Lang or Ryan Stewart, a lot of the
Hmm.
BTA guys.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I just, these guys have a wealth of knowledge, and I like to surround myself with people that are smarter than me because I'm just constantly learning.
Hmm.
Didn't know how to trade a stock 3 years ago. The first stock I ever bought was Tesla,
There you go.
you know?
Good job.
Yeah,
Yeah,
hang on to
no,
that.
not a great job, James. Sold it. I sold it during the pandemic and bought a bunch of weed stocks, and then it synctuplet split, and the weed stock is now at 13 cents.
Oh
So,
no.
I mean, it's gambling. It's gambling, guys. I'm not going to kick myself about it, but
Yeah, I think we've all been there on that stuff.
yeah. So what happens? I just, Christian, I love working with other people. I love seeing people succeed.
Hmm.
I love giving them information, some insights, and just being like, hey, who gives a fuck? Just try it. If somebody tells you no, you find a way around that no.
Yeah.
You know, uh, being able to hear via Christian through the whole U40 thing, and not being able to be in it myself because I don't have the U part. Um, but it's pretty cool that you guys are, you're sort of you're pushing the limits of that. You're in your mid 30s, and there's quite a lot that happens between that 30 and 40 range where you really start to get into your careers, which is really cool. You get the rubber's hitting the road pretty good. And
Hmm.
let me ask you this: is that in terms of the younger generation, like this sort of Gen Z, sort of coming into this, do you find that um, there's a softness and they're less resilient and less willing to just put their ass on the line? Do you find that, or do you think that they're kind of like your decade of grit?
I feel like the decade we're in right now, where I'm in, we're the mid 30s to mid 40s, we're unique because we still want to see those tangible events.
Hmm.
And the younger generation, they love the Zooms. They have a hard time being stuck in a room or going to one of these events and kind of standing in the corner and being like, well, I hope somebody comes and talks to me. Hope somebody
Hmm.
comes and talks to me.
Right.
So this is why I try to make everybody feel as comfortable as possible. I'm just like, hey, I'm Jeff. How are you? Where are you from? Even if it's like a broadband wireless company, which I know we don't need, I'm going to go up and I'm going to talk to them.
Yeah.
You
Hmm.
know, so I don't feel that they're engaged as much as us. And this is kind of why I'm still continuing with the U40 VRCA because I do think that it's going to come back. Do I think it's going to come back this year? Maybe towards the latter half, but next year when I'm the chair and either Christian or Mac are the vice chair, um, we can still continue to empower these people to do these kind of things and just be out there. Like we're going to get back to normality at some point. Let's not just sit behind a computer and be like, hey guys, like I'm trying to touch you guys now. It's just like, no, I'd rather shake your hand, like
Totally. Well, what I think is really interesting about all this is that there's a few things at play here. There's the generational shift. Okay. And there's like, and we've talked about this before on our podcast. There's really like three, even four generations of people that are like still active in construction. You've obviously got like your boomers, and then you've got your, I guess, Gen Y, Gen X, and then, well, I mean, I might be getting
And
that
then
all
Gen
wrong,
Z,
but
yeah,
this, and
there's
then Gen Z.
yeah,
There,
I like to say the exennials as well. You've got that 77 to 83 gap.
sorry, that's what I was trying to get at too. There's almost five. There's almost
Yeah.
five generations of people that are still operating in construction. And where else do you see that? Where so many different generations have to interact together, and now have to all interact together in a COVID. And I can't believe we're still talking about this. Every episode is. I mean, it's relevant, but in that kind of a world. So you've got people that are like would never touch a piece of tech in their life, and they're struggling whether they're going to retire or not. And if they retire, that might be it, you know?
Yep.
And then you have those that are just coming in that are like, yeah, I guess trades, I guess construction. But yeah, remote is awesome. And I would love to look at people via screens, but unfortunately, there are a lot of tangible things in construction. So it's crazy to think about, like, so many people interacting in such a unique industry at a unique time. And it presents a lot of challenges, but also a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, you go down to Silicon Valley, and if you see a startup tech company, you're not going to see a baby boomer
Mm,
in
right.
that. You may see a couple here and there, but yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. There's five generations that are still in the construction industry, and we're trying to cater towards all their needs. You
yep.
know, and this is the one thing that I've been trying to wrap my head around. You've got the Gen Zs or the millennials that are now seeing what Christians, the James, the Jeffs, the Barry Hartmans, they see what we're doing, and they think that they can get there. They're like, well, I want that right now.
Mm,
And people call that entitlement, but that's not entitlement. It's called impatient. We've just got to
mm,
educate them, like. So this is where Modula comes into play, and they're like, you know what? Let's do some RSP matching. Let's do a health and wellness benefit. Let's take them out for lunches. Let's have barbecues. Um, the pay that we give them is great. But we're just trying to like keep our employees engaged and sticking around as long as possible and giving them all these extras instead of being like, hey, here's a $5,000 sign-on bonus and this is what we're going to give you. We give them benefits after 6 months. It's like, what else can we do to retain the labor right now?
Well, Jeff, the currency that let's just talk about that generation, for instance, the millennial generation. The currency that has had value to them so far is this being followed or being admired. Really, I mean that is, how many followers do you have on Instagram? Now how many do you have on TikTok? How many friends do you have? What's your network, etc. That sort of um, the currency of influence, but that influence only really works on particular channels. And they're all expecting to do sort of, mic drop posts that are going that or would be akin to, let's say they're at a network event. What they want to do is to be able to just say one big thing loud and everyone rushes to them and wants to talk to them. That doesn't happen in the real world. You have to
mm,
you have to walk up to somebody who and it's going to feel prickly for a second, and they're like, oh, who are you? Prove yourself. Why should I sit here and talk to you? There is that uncomfortable feeling of insecurity. Do you fit in? Is there a group over there which feels like you can't really talk to them because it seems like they know each other? That is a very weird thing for that generation to try and do. And when this does come back, where we're all going to be outside again, I have a feeling that there's going to be less of this going on. Oh, yeah, I'm at an event. doing this. There's going to be less of that. There has to be, and there's going to be more of the main interaction that human beings have without the the supercomputer lens in between. What do you think about that?
I'm gonna throw an event with Modulock, and you're gonna have to put your phone in a locker.
Mm.
That's what you're gonna do. I'm glad you brought this up because I was talking about this with my buddy. He's in tech. Yesterday on the golf course, pitch and putt, no big deal. Went skiing, did about 10K, and then I went down to pitch and putt.
Which one?
Rupert Park,
Nice. That
and then we hit Swiss Chalet up after because we're a bunch of Ontario boys.
The challenge, nice.
Indoor dining.
Chalet.
So
Love
James,
it.
here's my thing, man, and I'm glad you guys brought this social media thing up because it really, really bugs me how I see some of my friends just going downhill. Do you think there should be a legal age on social media these days?
That's interesting. I mean, they do have age limits. I believe it's 13.
13. Okay, would you give your 13-year-old daughter, Christian, a bottle of Johnny Walker Blue?
Yeah, I know no.
Exactly. It really kills me that we're
Yeah.
watching our younger generation. All they do, they can order food, they can have a pretend
Mhm.
relationship, they can
Mhm.
game with their friends. They don't even have to leave their house. How are we
Mhm.
going to get them to an industry event, not looking at this the entire time? Oh, hey, how you doing? Looking on their Instagram. No, put that
Mhm.
away. Stack of business cards, or even have one of your business cards. They've got these new apps where just tap.
Yeah.
I can
Yep.
tap Christian's phone. My
Yep.
information goes right into yours. Link, bang. So it's like I got off. I haven't looked at my Facebook for over a month. I haven't ordered DoorDash or anything in over a month. Um, I'm trying not to look at the news, watch the news, maybe once or twice a week. Just trying to educate with myself with like Forbes magazine and
Mm.
Quest Trade and just kind of stuff that's going to make me more knowledgeable in life instead of giving people those dopamines like, oh, I looked at your story because you posted something where you were in Tulum 2 years ago. I know you're not there right fucking now. So why are you
Yep.
posting that? Because you need those dopamines
Yeah. Yeah.
going. Like, oh my God, I got 64. Like, no. I only post on social media on Instagram once every couple months just so my parents know I'm alive. That's it.
Well,
Sometimes they know how wild I get, and they're just like, "Okay, is he alive? We don't know where he is."
your generation and up, for instance, going through, I'm Gen X, so going into that era, um, it's a very, we're all sort of floating around, is there an Instagram thing, 200 to 600 followers kind of thing. We're kind of around there, and it's, you know, is it of value to us to be like, hey, yeah, I've worked really hard for the past 3 weeks. I've got 2,000 now. I mean, the amount of work you got to do that. I mean,
Mm.
you really have to go for it. And the question is what value do you have at the end? If you want to be the the line between having a couple of hundred followers versus a million, which is actually where the value is. You can't monetize anything under, I don't know, under what. I mean, I guess you could, but
I think
I mean,
it's
who cares?
10, 10,
10K.
10K. Yeah. 10K is when you can start. That's when things change on
Right, but the
social.
amount of work it takes to get to 10K, if you've got a career or you're doing something else, or
Yeah.
I mean,
Totally.
yeah, I mean, it's really hard to do. But the question is that as we do that, there's a fatigue that starts to happen about why am I doing this, and COVID has really pushed us. The thing that you just said there, Jeff, about getting a Forbes magazine and getting something tangible in your hands.
Yeah.
There's lots of services that have just disappeared now, and now it's only on the phone. And
Yeah.
that's what we only have now. So, I got that NASA article from that sort of joke earlier from my Flipboard. Flipboard is the news thing that I have, which works pretty well.
Mhm.
I have these, different topics that I follow. Um, and, it just keeps updating, right? It's like a never ending newspaper. But it's the only place I get my news now. I don't have
Mm.
cable anymore. I don't watch TV. I got
Mm-hmm.
Netflix, I got Prime, I got all of those pay for services. And I don't know. I mean, the the social interaction, the thing that's annoying is that, we here I got a big theory here. I don't know if you guys are going to subscribe to this, but it's pretty broad. So think of my parents. Okay, my parents are in their 70s. They have X amount of dollars in the bank, and they expect a return every single month from that money.
Mm-hmm.
So that means dividends from particular stocks. That means those companies have to continue to be profitable, etc. They have to continue to keep providing wealth. Now, that means more sales. It means companies continue to expand. And it means risk for those companies to stay relevant in terms of their stock. So, how do they do that? Well, they have to continue to push, push, push. Now, that means also being careful. That means being politically correct, not getting canceled as a brand, as a corporation. That means narratives pushing this thing forward, continuing to be so safe that it's actually wrecking our culture, that we end up with no one standing up for how weird this is. The whole thing is weird. And it's supported by money. And I love wealth. I love money. So don't get me wrong. I'm not like saying anything against capitalism or anything like that. But I think when you start to go, well, let's talk about where you came from, Jeff, with the in the event business, right? Selling those corporate boxes, right? Selling those corporate events. I've had the guys from the Canucks call us all the time. Hey, you bring your team. I went to them a few times. It was cool. I actually rented the 360 LED ring at Rogers Arena, did all the advertising on that. But all of that comes down to popularity, and popularity exists on these damn networks. So it just keeps doing this. And it doesn't, it's like a roller coaster. We can't be like, hey, hang on, I'm done with this thing. I just want to get off. I want to walk around again. I want to get my feet feeling like I'm not floating in 360 space. So I know this is sort of a very, over some whiskey or something, we can chat about this in terms of more detail, but it all does come down to the fact that no one wants to stand up about how strange this is all getting, because the money thing has to keep rolling to support the economy the way it's expected to keep paying for everything.
Or the government can just keep printing money off.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the other part too, right? And if only we could cancel the government, that'd be great. CRA, sorry, you're dead to me.
I'm not filing my taxes this year.
But when it comes to, so if we bring this back to kind of where we
Reality.
got started on this conversation of like generations and all that kind of stuff, and the good thing about construction is social media does play a tiny little part, but it doesn't drive the growth or like professional development or talent acquisition or mentoring or coaching within these businesses. There's a lot of hard, tangible things involved in that. You said one thing, and a lot of this boils down to, like you said, Jeff, at the kind of when we went on this, impatience. So I remember my first gig at a university. I was an assistant project manager. I fall in the millennial generation, mid 30s, but I remember in my early 20s that I did have a little bit of impatience as well. I think it looks a lot different than the impatience that maybe is out there and is rampant in in more generations, not even just younger, but it's just because of things like social media or just the things we see all around us. But I remember having to know that like I want to get someplace. Yeah, I'd like to get there somewhat expediently, but I know that these things don't actually happen without hard work, without rolling up my sleeves, without being gritty, without learning from the people above me. Yes, I'll be impatient at times. Yes, can be stubborn, but it did require me to learn from those that had gone before me. So, tying this back all to 5 generations operating in construction today, there has to be something that is done that pulls from each of these generations. And it might not just necessarily be the oldest versus the youngest working together, but maybe some of the closer ones that kind of pull together and leverage some of these things that are happening today, but also preparing ourselves for something that might look a little different in a year or two. So, when it comes to learning from each other and when it comes to coaching and mentoring, I bring it back to you, Jeff, and maybe just specifically in even in your business, but like what sorts of things do you guys do internally to kind of help each other learn, to do professional development, to deal with younger and older generations working together?
It's a good question. Um, I think it's the brand that I've built over the last 11 years, where people have seen the progression,
Hmm.
and some of the regional directors around us, where it's like, sorry, I get this dog chirping
No
at me
worries.
right now. If we see that somebody is struggling somewhere, um, we will go out and get them an accounting course. We will
Mm,
go with them in Crestcom management. Um, myself being in 3 different provinces, I like to take on the younger generation and be like, hey guys, what do you guys want to do in the future? Where do you see
yep.
yourself? If you don't see yourself with Moduloc, where do you see yourself? Let me help you get there.
Hmm.
Um, we don't want them to be limited to Moduloc, but if they say, hey, you know what, one day I want to be a depot supervisor in Kelowna, something opens up. I always continue try to talk to these guys. I try to take them out for lunches. I try to I just try to give them as much knowledge as possible. Get out of here. And yeah, I continue to call them. Like even the guys from like Toronto that I haven't seen in 5 or 6 years. Like I'll still reach out to them sometimes and be like, hey, how you guys doing? You
Yep.
know, like some of our CSRs. They don't always get outside, and we'll have the boat cruise. I'll be like, hey, you know what, you're coming with me to the boat cruise and you're going to experience this, because I want to see if you want to sit behind a desk for the rest of your life, or is this something that you can see yourself doing.
Yep.
you know I want to go out there and I want to land these large infrastructure jobs, contracts that are going to keep our operations guys rolling and rolling and rolling. When I come in and they're like, yo, I only got 38 hours this week. And I was like, okay, well, let me work harder to try and get you guys more money. And, they kind of look up to me as a mentor like that way.
Mm-hmm.
I'll sit down and I will talk to our CEO. We've got CEO, CFO, and COO. I will talk to all three of them the exact same way that I'll talk to a fence guy. And that is
Mm,
my motto in life. I don't care who you are. I'm going to talk to you the same. This is who I am. This is not everybody. Christian, you
hmm.
know this. When I get on the VRCA phone call, sometimes I'm throwing the F bombs. I've got a whiskey, at after hours. And that's just who I am. That's who I am. Like
Yep.
there's only one Jeff Block in the world. And I'm
Yep.
not trying to be a Christian Ham because he's already taken. I'm trying to be
Yep.
Jeff Block, and it works for me. So yeah, I just try to mentor these guys as much as I humanly possibly can. Guys, girls, whoever, try to empower them to get involved with the VRCA, U40. We've got our one of our younger reps in Calgary now joined the Calgary, the Young Leaders of Calgary. Trying to
Yep.
build his brand. I'm like, hey, if you want to replicate something, try to replicate what I did. It worked for me 3 different times.
Mhm.
Try it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I try to talk to these sales reps once a week. Give me an update. Hey, what are you doing? What can we do? Who can we go after? So, yeah, that's kind of like my mentoring like strategy. Get
Mm-hmm.
them out for
You
lunch.
hit Yeah, and you hit three. Okay, so if I pull 3 themes out of that, one of them was like constant communication or
Yeah.
like ongoing communication, authenticity, be Jeff Block.
Yeah.
But then also like model what it is that that you would like to see a younger generation or other employees that are they're building their careers model what it is before them, that maybe like what results look like or what success looks like in growing your career. And I think back again, I reflect back to my first job in the office in construction, and you know, good managers and good memories of certain things, but a lot of that back then was, oh hey, my door's always open, but it wasn't, right? Hey, let's get you to where you want to go, and then you all you get is like a measly cost of living increase every year, and then you got to like
2.3%.
fight for whatever you need.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying that like whatever, like that people do or don't do that these days and at work. I don't know, but I feel like there's not a lot of authenticity in that. There's obviously not a lot of communication in that, and those people were probably stuck where they were, and so there's not a lot of modeling what results in success looks like. And so I feel like when you have, and I have a lot of these conversations, and James, we have a lot of these conversations in our business, um, just with anybody that we're trying to raise up, to build up. You got to talk often. You got to make sure that you're always projecting vision and being like, where is it that this is where we're going now? Where is it that you want to go? And if you want to be somewhere else in 5 years, it's like, okay, well then that's fine. But we need a level of commitment, that's gonna at least, extend beyond 2, 3 years or whatever, where you can grow at this stage of your career. Because so often today, people are just like, okay, where's the grass greener? Is it in the company? Where's the grass greener in the company? Is it something else? Because I just came up across some opposition in the company, or things got a little tough. I'm going to move to a different part of the company or just leave altogether.
And that really that really bugs me too, is because, and I hope I'm not going to get in shit for this, but I think everybody agrees with me. Project managers, construction managers, they have no loyalty to their companies. It's whoever's going to give me that extra 10, 15K, they're going to jump ship. And I've met numerous people that have now worked for 3 different companies since I've been here in 5 years. Um, you hit it. You gotta ask your employees, where do you want to be in 5 years? Well, this is where I
Hmm.
want to be in 5 years. Okay, can I help you get there? If
Hmm.
not, maybe we should be looking for an alternative option. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
If you say, I had my negotiation contracts last talks last week, and I said this is where I want to be between 43 and 45, and our COO is a CPA, so he's like, okay, so by the time you're 35 to 37, I was like, no, 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 no. It's at 33 to 35, 43 to 45, and he added 2 years.
Yep.
Thinking the CPA way, and he's like, okay, let's see where we can get you. And Moduloc's a very fair company. We treat our employees with the utmost respect. Um, so yeah, do I see myself here long term? Yeah, would I like to see it grow down to the states, grow in you know maybe the island, maybe a little bit
Yep.
more up north where there's a lot of construction going on up there. So yeah, if anybody's going to take anything away from this, don't be afraid to ask for more. You know, you're not going to get it if you don't ask for it.
Hmm.
And you're not
Hmm.
you're not insulting your employer. It's called a negotiation.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of people out there that are afraid to go out and say, "Hey, can I get that extra $5,000?" And like they can't sleep the night before. They're like,
Yep.
"Hey, man, just look at their EBITDA, see what they're making a year."
Totally. And if people are, and this the two things kind of go together here. So you're right that like, um, if you don't ask for something, you don't get something in return. And you're right. These things are a negotiation. Now there's two sides of that. There has to be value provided in that, that people that want to grow are hardworking, are ambitious, and
Yep.
that are able to produce certain things, right? And that's kind of what we're talking about is like, are the different generations here, especially in construction businesses, are they just going, hey, put in my time, it's been 6 months, I need that $5, or I need that 4 grand or 5 grand, whatever it is, right? It's like, well, what was grown, where was their growth shown, so a lot of it has to be value on both sides, and I think that when there's that there, then there's no problem for an employer to be like, yeah, you're killing it. You're doing really good. And yeah, we should have these conversations. We should talk about your growth. We should create plans for you to succeed, because ultimately, if you build your team with A players and people that want to produce and that actually can and that aren't afraid to have some tougher conversations, man, it just makes a business and a construction business or a contracting business that much more, just adds so much more strength to what they're able to offer and to the prospect of the future for them.
You know, Jeff, when I just listening to you and, imagining you at these network events and, you know, the it's a pretty neat style that you have, and I'm just trying to pin what that is. I think this negotiation thing, I think, is a huge element of this. Some other generations have never had to negotiate for anything. They don't have to like find the key. You keep banging on the door and it's locked, and you go, okay, maybe that door or maybe this door, and this whole method and of grinding and negotiating. The cool style about, and I've seen a few people who sell this way, and Jeff, this is a compliment to you, so please just take it this way. I can tell you have a talent of being able to minimize the gray skies of a situation, sell the blue, and somehow make people feel a little bit off if they don't see your blue. And those are the great salespeople who, because like I forget who it was. I was with someone. Yeah, there's this really talented girl that. Oh yeah, and she's now become a real estate agent. And I said to her, I said, yeah, I mean you, and this is not necessarily just exactly like you, Jeff, but she has this talent of making people feel dumb for not agreeing with her. And you're like, yeah,
Talent.
for sure.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Because she minimizes the gray and sells the blue, which is
Right.
a really cool thing. Because you're always like, yeah, you could go with this other, but this is so, it's kind of that thing. And you can tell you're awesome at that. And has that been did you learn that somewhere, or is that a,
It's just kind of my style. You want to know what one of my favorite things to do, and it's bad to say, but I hope people take this and they listen to this and they say, I'm going to try to adopt his style. I can get a hold of anybody through a connection, through LinkedIn Sales Navigator, through LinkedIn. I'll call your office. I'll call the CEO's phone, and I'll be like, "Yo, is Jim there?" I don't even know his last name, like Jim Smith, but you just pretend that you know him. But my favorite
Mm-hmm.
thing to do is when I add a connection on LinkedIn
Mm-hmm.
and they don't accept the connection, and then I see them at an event, and I'll be like, "Hey, Brian, here's a beer. I tried to add you on LinkedIn. You didn't accept my connection. Next day, accepted."
Accept the
You
connection.
know, like
But
I,
but it's embracing awkward.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And a lot of people don't like to be put in those awkward situations, but I've put myself in so many awkward situations. I'm like, how am I getting out of this? And how did I get myself into this? And next thing you know, you're signing, a master service agreement with Graham Construction for all of Canada. And I was just like
Nice.
emailing their buyer once a month, being like, hey, Kieran, I know you're not going to respond to this, but I just wanted to check in to see how you're doing. I'll check in a month again.
Mm-hmm.
7, 8 months later, hey, Jeff, can you come in? Yeah. Next thing you know, I'm flying to Alberta to meet their head buyer in Alberta, and they're Amy Craig. And we all had a great time. And now we just have the ball rolling. And these are the kind of deals that I love to land. Like, it just makes me feel warm and fuzzy when I see Ontario, like, taking orders from Graham, knowing that it took me 2 years sending an email once a month with not
Mm-hmm.
even one response. Like, I just like being awkward. Like, I'm gonna sleep at night. You know?
Yep, it's true. You leave. There's some things that just don't get left on the table, right? Like you or not left unsaid or whatever. So, um, James and I, we have to throw the sales hat on every now and then. And we did wear the sales hat quite a bit, getting SiteMax off the ground and everything like that. And so like we totally get the constant follow up and awkward and all that kind of stuff. Sales is one thing that you wanted to chat about. I'm thinking, Jeff, that we do a round 2 and we maybe do it later in the day, because it seems like I feel like we're getting morning Jeff and it's awesome, but I feel like afternoon or early evening Jeff would be off the hook, especially with a glass of whiskey in hand.
I
And we can
I, I agree with you 100%. I was thinking about that beforehand because this is like this is like 7:30 to 8:45, Jeff. If you had the 4 p.m. Jeff and we had a whiskey in the hand, like the creative juices start flowing a lot more for me. Like I've heard you guys talk on the podcast before. I think Andrew was saying it's like, yeah, we've been working for 6 hours. Like, why don't we just take a couple hours off and like sleep in the morning, sleep in, and just kind of like, what is the 9 to 5 now? Like yesterday, I was on I was at Cyprus at 3 o'clock, and then I was at the pitch and putt course at 4:30. But that doesn't mean I can't get up at 7 in the morning, do all my work, and then
Mhm,
put in an extra couple hours today. Like, yeah,
mhm.
let's do a round 2. I would love to do a round 2, and we get we got a couple cocktails flowing. I can send you guys some cocktails. Maybe we could even do it in person next time. You never know.
Yeah, we got a pretty cool studio, and we're just trying to make sure we can get back to that at some point. For certain ones, it would be a ton of fun. So I think we should talk and set something like that up. But Jeff, thanks for joining us, man. Really appreciate it. Such great conversation, and I know that there can be so much more. Anything, because this was like a round table and we had like lots of different discussions about certain things, and usually when we do like interview episodes and stuff like that, we give people the opportunity to kind of give like a little pitch for who they are and their business and stuff like that. But I feel like we should give you that opportunity too. So is there anything that you'd want to just share about Modulock, or anything that you'd want to leave with our audience, or anything like that?
I feel like we've touched on it. A lot of people in the industry are kind of recognizing my name now because I've been here for 5 years. Modulock, leading temporary fence supplier in all of Canada. I like to think, are we the best in the world? Quite possibly. Um, you know, we're going to continue to grow this. If you guys have any site security solution needs that you need, get at me. I'm on LinkedIn, Jeff Block. Reach out to me anytime. I'm happy to meet up with you for a beer, shake your hand. Yeah, just thanks for having me, guys. I really look forward to
Nice.
round 2. I think round 2 could be a lot more fun and energetic. So yeah, I really appreciate it, guys.
Cool. We're looking forward to it, Jeff. So follow Jeff on social. Follow the site visit on social, on Instagram, LinkedIn, and our YouTube channel. Just the site visit, and we look forward to future conversations. Thanks again. Let's get back to building.
Thanks for listening to The Site Visit, a podcast dedicated to leadership in construction with perspective from the job site. If you like the show, please subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or Google Play. To learn more, check us out online at thesitevisit.com.